which today will be dedicated to two wonderful methods, Russian tempering and also Buteyko breathing. And I feel just thrilled, feel very privileged to talk to you about the methods, those two methods which I love and which changed my life. And it just feels very joyful to me to share with you some knowledge I accumulated about that. But both methods, it's not something which was invented by someone and then it stopped. They are forming, and it's never going to end, I think, and I hope. And as I mentioned to Margaret before, that we are all contributing into the development of those methods. So each individual experience is incredibly valuable. So this method was originally invented and formed by doctors in Soviet Union, and that was approximately in the middle of the last century. At that time, doctors were trying to answer the question how to turn the elements of nature, such as cold and hot air, ice, humidity, wind, and many other adverse weather conditions into our healers and our health coaches, I can say. At that time, it became very clear to them that nature has an incredible healing power. However, what was not clear is how to use this healing power in a safe way, how to make those elements positive for health improvement for all people, like extremely strong, athletic, young people, as well as very ill people, elderly people, or babies, in fact. So a lot of money was invested by the government of Soviet Union at that time into this work, and doctors came up with principles on how to use the elements of nature for our own health improvement. And this knowledge kind of went viral and actually became the part of the Russian culture. So most Russian people practice tempering in some ways. It could be very, very small or could be very big. And also what doctor created was carried further, much, much further by enthusiasts of this method. And that's why, as I said, the method keeps forming. It's never going to stop doing it. So, and even though this method is called Russian tempering because it was created in Russia and Soviet Union, but really the elements of tempering exist in almost every culture because it's an ancient knowledge how to use, what Mother Earth can offer us to improve our health. But just like with the Buteyko method, this ancient knowledge was sort of translated by medical doctors and scientists and reoffered to us, to modern people, so to speak, in a form which is suitable for us now, suitable to solve our health problems and suitable for our lifestyle. Now, the next question is, how Russian tampering is how is Russian tampering connected to the Buteyko method. And well, the main connection is quite obvious. Both of these methods were created and are used to improve people's health, and not only health, but really our quality of life. So both methods are holistic, which means that they affect us as whole. So there is nothing in the body which doesn't get affected by breathing, and the same thing with the elements. The elements of nature affect the body, mind, and spirit as one system, one organism. So we cannot call whether Russian tampering or Buteyko method, the Buteyko method, a cure for a specific disease, even though both act as such quite often. But they just improve overall health to such a significant degree that many health conditions, many diseases sometimes disappear. And they bring healing, they bring a cure sometimes on all levels, on the physical level, the level of the body, on the emotional level, and on the level of the mind as well. Any type of method or technique regarding elements of nature or extreme or adverse weather conditions could be very dangerous for people. It could easily kill a person. So a big question here is how to make it safe. And Dr. Buteyko, who practiced tampering, made a very valuable contribution into the development of Russian tampering by defining that if a person's control pose is below 20 seconds, then tampering should not be practiced, or only very mild elements of this method would be acceptable. Because if a person's control pose is below 20 seconds, it means that this person's immune system is very weak, and any kind of adverse factors could compromise the immune system further. That's why this person should first improve his or her immune system by practicing breathing exercises, and then Russian tampering will be possible and will be very effective for this person. The other connection is that, so there are two elements of the Buteyko method. One is breathing exercises, and another one is the lifestyle. And we usually work with both. Modern lifestyle based on comfort and overconsumption supports overbreathing. And as most of you know very well, overbreathing is a basis for all kinds of diseases. So I would say suffering. Again, it's on all levels. It's physical suffering, emotional suffering, and psychological suffering as well, mental suffering. You know, teaching the Buteyko method, we work with both elements of it. We address breathing issues directly. We work with breathing directly by doing breathing exercises. But at the same time, we work with the lifestyle. So now if you look at the past and how people used to live, we will see that their lifestyle, like in the pre-industrial times, their lifestyle was much more supportive of healthy, peaceful breathing. So it would be reasonable to assume that before, hyperventilation was present much less, significantly less than it is now. And it was mostly because of the lifestyle. So it's important to understand that we need the Buteyko method to improve our health for two reasons. One, the possible reason is maybe because we were born as hyperventilators. I definitely was born this way, so I had to fix it. But the second reason is that because our lifestyle doesn't support healthy breathing, it doesn't support health in general, right? So to compensate for our unhealthy lifestyle, we have to do breathing exercises. I hope that makes sense, right? But Dr. Buteyko said that those people who have or had the right lifestyle, they really didn't need breathing exercises. For example, when a nuclear catastrophe in Ukraine, in Chernobyl happened, all people were trying to escape from those affected areas. At that time, when Dr. Buteyko and his wife, Lyudmila Buteyko, purchased the tickets to fly to Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, which was kind of close to Chernobyl, they did it right away. So they flew there and they taught people how to use their breathing to protect themselves from radiation. But also Dr. Buteyko would return to Chernobyl after, and he spent some time examining people who refused to be evacuated from this area affected by nuclear power, by radiation. And so he examined people who were very basic rural people. They had a very basic lifestyle. They would live in a simple, wooden cabin, would eat mostly food which they grew themselves, and would have a cow maybe, and spend quite a bit of time every day chopping wood and carrying water, things like this, very basic lifestyle. And they were so attached to the place they lived and the lifestyle that they refused to leave Chernobyl. And Dr. Buteyko found out that their control pulse, or positive maximum pulse to be precise, was very high. It was above 40 seconds, sometimes it was 60 seconds, even though those people were not that young. And they were affected by radiation in a very minimal way. Okay? So how come their numbers were so high and they achieved so much without even knowing about the Buteyko method? So that was their lifestyle. And that lifestyle also included being one with nature, being very close to the elements of nature. Of course, those people didn't have air conditioners or cars or other things which every modern person has, heating systems in their homes and so on. So I think it's very important to understand that the goal of the Buteyko method is to increase your control pulse as much as possible. And in order to do that, the lifestyle is very important. And the more natural our lifestyle is, the higher our control pose is in a way. And of course, there are some other elements such as spirituality and so on, but I just would like to talk about the elements of nature right now. And then I also would like to briefly mention the story of my daughter, because for me, tempering began in 1987 when my daughter was a baby, and she had a serious health problem. She has a tumor on her breast, and that's why I started searching for alternative ways to improve health. And I was incredibly fortunate because I found people who were true masters of tempering, and I started applying everything to my daughter's situation, but also I started practicing tempering by myself. So my daughter, who was ill as a baby, grew up as a completely disease-free child. That's how it's supposed to be with children, actually. That's what's supposed to be normal. And because I didn't know about the Buteyko method at that time, I didn't practice Buteyko breathing, and she didn't as well. And yet, when I measured her positive maximum pose for the first time, she was at the beginning of her 20s then, her positive maximum pose was above 60 seconds. So I'm using the story of my daughter just as an example to show that just the lifestyle or practicing tempering could increase the level of carbon dioxide significantly. And as most of you know, the level of carbon dioxide in the lungs is our vital energy. Our life depends on it, and possibly, most likely, it's really what's called our prana. So, of course, we should, if we want to be healthy, we need to control our breathing as much as possible, to do breathing exercises. But to do breathing exercises for a significant time every day, it's kind of becomes a bit boring and redundant. And who really wants to sit inside and kind of block your nose every minute or two when it's sunny and beautiful outside, right? When you can go for a hike in the mountains, or you can swim in a lake, or jump into a stream, or maybe be barefoot and just step into mud and so on, right? So now it's the end of June. In most places it's a very warm time, and it's a great time to start practicing Russian tempering. So, and one of incredible benefits which tempering creates is that it really increases our level of joy. And it's not something, I assume, or, I believe it does. Well, first of all, it's based on my own experience and the experience of others. But also, it was determined by doctors. After all, doing all kinds of research and trials, that this method really helps us to feel the joy of life. And this method is a wonderful remedy for fatigue and depression. And right now, believe that when I would speak about myself, when every time I watch news, of course, I feel slightly depressed. And as probably most of you, it's not really that joyful to hear about a possible second wave of COVID-19 and all kind of conflicts which are going all over the world. So, but we need to be joyful. We need to be healthy. One of the incredible Russian healers who in some ways was also a founder of this method. His name is Porfiry Ivanov. He always said that a human being, or every one of us is just a cell of the universe. And being a cell of the universe, we have a responsibility to be a healthy cell, to be a joyful cell, no matter what's going on around us in the world, right? And of course, when we are surrounded by negative information and by all kind of worries and anxiety, it's more difficult to maintain this joyful, positive attitude. And tempering can help with it, can help tremendously actually. If it's possible for your situation, just spend as much time as you can outside, playing with the elements, but do it only within the parameters of what is acceptable by your body. Whether you're practicing the Buteyko method or Russian tempering, you should develop incredible respect to the language of your body, to the intelligence of your body, because the modern approach is normally based on suppressing the language of the body, the intelligence of the body. For example, people put, sunscreen on their body to protect the body from the sun. They put sunglasses on their eyes to confuse the body, to tell the body that there is no sun outside. Okay, so this is the opposite from what from the Russian tempering approach. So your body is actually one with nature. It's our outer body. And it's very important not to block the channels of communication with the elements. So tempering is not a violent method. It's not like, your baby is screaming, but you're putting a bucket of ice cold water on your baby. No, not at all. So this method is very peaceful, very beautiful, but it requires a constant joyful effort. And probably the last thing I would like to say is that most people have a very narrow niche or corridor, what is acceptable by their bodies. It's a certain range of temperatures and also a certain range of weather conditions. And as soon as they're out of that range, they become ill. So for example, people with asthma might, start having severe breathing difficulties when they're exposed to humidity or to the cold air in the winter. And it's very difficult to live this way, being limited all the time by the weather conditions. So the only way out of this situation is by by widening your comfort zone, by making adverse weather conditions your allies, your friends, your healers.